Titus County 911, what's your emergency?
I have a home invasion. My niece is tied up. I am at the verge of untying my niece at this particular moment.
Okay, she's tied up.
She is tied up and gagged.
And gagged?
In Titus County, Texas, Samantha and Ernest lived a seemingly normal life with their 5 children. But the 911 call you just heard was made by Samantha's aunt because masked men had broken into the couple's home. In today's video, we delve deep into the events of February 2015, lifting the veil and revealing the horrors of that night. Additionally, we will witness a fire that occurred in a house and how the perpetrator was caught. Brace yourselves, we're stepping into the crime scene now.
Before he had a chance to do that, Ponce shot
We're heading to Camp County in the state of Texas, USA. Samantha Wohlford was born on August 28, 1989, in Mount Pleasant, Texas. She's the oldest of 3 siblings. When Samantha was 19, she found out she was pregnant with twins. The father of the babies decided to break up with her and not be involved in raising them. They split up, leaving Samantha to raise the twins on her own. Samantha's challenging life took a turn for the better when she met Ernest Ibarra. Ernest, like Samantha, was born in Mount Pleasant on December 25, 1985. The couple met in a tattoo parlor and soon started a relationship. Ernest did not mind that Samantha already had 2 young children and wanted to have a family with her despite everything. In 2011, Samantha became pregnant again and this time gave birth to twins. At just 22, Samantha was a mother of 4. She told Ernest she didn't want any more children, but soon they had their 3rd child. By the time Samantha turned 24, she was a young mother taking care of 5 small children, and naturally they faced challenges. They couldn't afford to send their children to kindergarten, so Samantha quit her job and stayed at home to take care of them. Ernest was the sole provider, but his 2 jobs weren't enough. He started looking for a 3rd job to make ends meet. Ernest, exhausted from extra shifts, would come home tired, and Samantha was exhausted from taking care of the children. Despite Ernest's efforts, they didn't have enough money to even feed themselves, and this put a strain on their relationship. Frustrated with their financial difficulties, Samantha started looking for ways to earn extra money from home. That's when she came up with the idea of becoming a YouTuber.
About 45 minutes, I guess. Everyone in my household's been sick. That's why my voice sounds so funky.
Samantha used her YouTube videos to share her personal life, hopes, and dreams, and her hard work started paying off as her subscriber count grew. However, Samantha's success on YouTube didn't improve her relationship with her husband. If anything, it made it worse. As Samantha spent more time and energy on social media, she neglected her children, which led to frequent arguments between her and Ernest. Their disagreements continued until February 2015, when strange events unfolded in their house. In the early hours of February 20th, 2015, Samantha called her mother, Rosie. She was crying and told her mother that an unknown person had broken into the house, abducted Ernest, and tied her up. Instead of calling the police, Rosie called her sister, Ginger. She said something was wrong and that they should go to Samantha's house. Ginger was the first person to arrive and noticed that Samantha's car was not in the driveway. She quickly went inside and found Samantha upstairs with her feet tied together and her hands bound behind her back. Someone had tried to gag her, but Samantha managed to free herself enough to make a call. Ginger didn't untie Samantha right away. She went around the house to check on the children, who were luckily still asleep. Once she confirmed that the children were safe, Ginger began to untie Samantha, which was not easy because the ropes were tightly knotted. Her aunt, while attempting to untie her, simultaneously called 911 and sought help from the operator.
Titus County 911, what's your emergency?
I have a home invasion. My niece is tied up. I am at the verge of untying my niece at this particular moment.
Okay, she's tied up
She is tied up and gagged.
and gagged. Is that what you
Yes,
said?
ma'am.
Is there anybody else there?
Where are the kids? We have 5 small infants asleep.
5 small infants asleep,
Yes, ranging from 7 to 1.
7 to 1 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
Does she know,
Samantha, did you know who the suspects are?
can I talk to her? Is she able to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hi, Samantha. I know you're upset, but I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Do you need EMS?
No, they didn't do anything to me. They hit me once.
She's advising no, they only hit her once. Okay.
I just asked my aunt if it was bruising or anything, and she said no, they hit me in the face.
Okay, they hit you in the face?
Yeah, they had me tied up and they dragged me down the stairs to face my husband. And when my husband went in to face me, they hit me in the face.
The sheriff's office responded quickly and started searching the house. Other than a broken front door, nothing seemed damaged. The furniture was in place, and nothing valuable was missing. It was clear that robbery wasn't the motive behind the break-in. Only Samantha was bound, and Ernest was taken. The police immediately began investigating Ernest's abduction, starting with questioning Samantha as an eyewitness. She provided a detailed account of the events that night. She explained that she and Ernest were asleep when masked assailants broke into the house, and they woke up to their voices. Samantha couldn't recall any specific details that could help identify the attackers. She remembered one of them threatening her with a knife and another taking her and Ernest downstairs. Then she was carried downstairs and tied up while she heard Ernest being beaten. Eventually, she heard the door open. Samantha was worried about her children and felt helpless. The police found her actions suspicious and questioned why she didn't call them directly but instead called her mother. Samantha, with her hands tied, explained that she had to use her face to operate her phone and called the last number dialed, which was her mother's. However, there was no trace of Ernest or his phone. The police sent Ernest's phone number to the central station to track it, and they discovered that the phone pinged in Pittsburgh, Texas, around 3 a.m. But they had no other leads, and the signal disappeared soon after. With few leads, investigators decided to question Samantha again. Her demeanor changed, indicating that she might have knowledge of the attackers' identities. She asked the detective if she would be considered an accomplice for not revealing who kidnapped her husband and mentioned some names: Jonathan Sanford, Jose Ponce, and Octavius Rhymes. Samantha had met Jonathan through a friend and had confided in him about her troubled marriage and the abuse she endured from Ernest. Jonathan suggested that he and his brother could solve the problem by teaching Ernest a lesson through kidnapping. Ernest had previously been arrested for domestic violence early in their marriage, but Samantha's accounts of abuse were considered exaggerated.
A few weeks after the emergency protective order actually was lifted, in the meantime, he found out from some judge that he could call me. So he had started calling me, which I told you that.
Yes, ma'am.
He can continue calling me, asking what my demands were, what he had to do to even remotely have me consider him being back in the house with us. Ernest told me to take anger management and get help. He went through all of the anger management courses. He completed those on a certificate, took those up to the judge. Off and on, we Skyped, and things seemed better, and so the first time I actually got to see him, it was kind of a sporadic thing. I would let him come out maybe spend the night, try to get him in a few days, and just, so for the first 2 weeks or something, I just kind of wanted to feel out how he was acting, and
Sure.
then he came home.
Did y'all have any other problems going on in that time frame?
Other than just kind of, he's working 2 jobs, and that's stressful enough, and he wants to come in and gripe at me and pick at me.
Sure.
Just typical, nothing bad.
Right. So there hasn't been anything else going on as far as, you said something about you thought he might have been messing around on your...
He just randomly started coming home late.
A thorough Facebook search led the investigators to 3 people: Jose Ponce, Jonathan Sanford, and Octavius Rhymes. When they looked into Jonathan's background, they found his extensive criminal record and tracked him down. Jonathan was with his girlfriend, Charla, who had just given birth and was in the hospital. Jose was also with them. The police arrested Jonathan and Jose, and to their surprise, the two were cooperative during the initial questioning. Jose provided crucial information that completely changed the direction of the investigation.
Samantha's version?
Samantha is the ringleader. Samantha is the one, and I can prove this. If you don't believe me, as God is my witness.
He admitted to being unsure about the task at hand and claimed he was only responsible for surveillance. On the other hand, Jonathan was interrogated and confessed to his involvement. He confirmed that he was the one who kidnapped Ernest. Jonathan's motive for kidnapping Ernest aligned with what Samantha had previously told the police. They discovered that Ernest had been harassing Samantha, which led them to plan the kidnapping to scare him off. Their main objective was to teach him a lesson about not harassing women.
I felt like 2 other people else were in danger if I didn't go along with this whole thing.
Okay, what, now explain, what were they telling you then that y'all was going to do and why?
Supposedly, from what I understood, supposedly we were going out here. All I was supposed to do was pull up, sit outside. They were going to go in, supposedly rough the dude up.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was being told, but at the same time, I keep getting, and don't forget, you got a newborn baby you're looking after, blah, 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 this and that, right? So to me...
Why are they going to go fuck him up?
Apparently...
Just be honest with me.
Apparently, from my understanding...
During the interrogation, Jonathan told the detective that he believed Samantha wasn't involved, contradicting Jose's claim that Samantha was the mastermind. However, Samantha had already been implicated. It was surprising that Jonathan protected her despite Jose's implicating Samantha.
Dude, honestly, me personally, I do not believe Samantha really had a hand to play in it. I think that what she was saying...
They picked up Ernest from his home and took him to a remote wooded area as planned. Initially, their plan was to abandon him there, but Jose had other plans.
The other dude pops out and starts coming with me. I'm like, what's up? He's like, man, I'm getting in the vehicle too. Before I ever make the vehicle, all I hear is pop. I know
Who's got the gun?
JoJo does.
Okay, then what happened?
I know that sound by heart. I grew up with guns. My dad's 21 years Navy. I know what a gun sounds like. We're in the vehicle. I started, and JoJo comes out. He's got the blanket, the bandana that was wrapped around the dude's face, the other cloth material, a belt. He's got all this shit. He puts it in the back seat. He gets in. He's like, let's go. I have not been by myself.
He brought a gun and fatally shot Ernest in the head. The investigators asked Jonathan to lead them to Ernest's body, and he agreed and cooperated. Jonathan showed them where the body was found in the wooded area.
He decided not to, that he would slit his throat. And then, before he had a chance to do that, Ponce shot him.
He then agreed to take the police to Octavius's house, where they had hidden the murder weapon. Initially, the weapon wasn't found in the house, but it was eventually discovered hidden in a ventilation hole in a room beneath the house. Octavius had already fled, making it difficult for the investigators to locate him. However, they eventually apprehended him and charged him with murder. Although Octavius refused to speak, his digital records provided evidence against him. They examined his phone records, which revealed a message from Samantha instructing Octavius to turn off Ernest's phone and delete the message. However, the message hadn't been deleted from Octavius's phone. The investigators showed these messages to Jonathan, highlighting the contradiction with his earlier statement about the kidnapping. Jonathan admitted that his previous statement was a lie. In reality, he and Samantha had planned the entire operation together, and everyone involved was aware of it. Samantha informed Jonathan that Ernest was controlling and abusive, and Jonathan suggested getting rid of him if she wanted. Samantha asked how they would do it, and that's how their plan began. Initially, their intention wasn't to kill Ernest. They planned to frame him by planting drugs in his car and reporting him to ruin his life. Samantha even lent her car to the men for the execution of the plan. On February 19th, Samantha visited Jonathan's girlfriend in the hospital, and Jonathan, Octavius, and Jose were all present. Afterward, they went to Octavius's cousin and bought a large quantity of methamphetamine. The purchase was successful, and they returned to Jose's house around 7 o'clock. Jose's girlfriend, who was unaware of their plans, noticed the group acting suspiciously. At times, Samantha and the three men would go into another room for private conversations. She could hear them whispering, but she couldn't understand what they were saying. Later that night, the group decided against framing Ernest because involving the police would be detrimental to all of them. They all had previous convictions and would face severe consequences if caught. Additionally, they preferred to consume the drugs they had purchased instead of spending money on framing Ernest. Over time, the idea of killing Ernest became more serious. At one point, Jonathan asked Samantha about her thoughts on Ernest's death, to which Samantha asked if he was serious. Jonathan assured her that he was serious, and if she wanted to see Ernest dead, all she had to do was leave the front door open when she went home. At midnight, Jonathan and Octavius took Samantha and her children home, along with Samantha's car as planned. Before picking up Jose, they stopped by a nearby Walmart and stole 3 pairs of disposable gloves. Later, all 3 men consumed the drugs they had purchased earlier. They returned to Samantha's house, where she had left the front door open for them to enter. The 3 of them easily entered the house, with Octavius taking Samantha out of bed while Jonathan and Jose attacked Ernest, repeatedly hitting him on the head with a weapon. Jonathan informed the others that if Ernest managed to escape, they would kidnap him instead, claiming he owed money to his father. After overpowering Ernest, they dragged him downstairs where Samantha and Octavius were waiting. Octavius then took Samantha back upstairs, tied her hands and feet, and staged the scene to make it appear as if she had been a victim too. Meanwhile, they tightly bound Ernest's hands and took him outside. They wanted the crime to resemble a real break-in, so they kicked in the front door as they left. Octavius grabbed a log from the garden, hit Ernest on the back with it, and placed him in the back seat of Samantha's car. After running a short distance through the woods, about 50 meters, Ernest fell face down to the ground. As he tried to get up, Jose shot him in the back of the head. The autopsy revealed that the gun had been pressed against Ernest's skin, confirming that the shot was fatal. The 3 men then returned to Octavius's house, stripped Ernest of his clothing, burned them, and destroyed any DNA evidence. All the details of this incident were made public, and all 3 individuals involved were arrested and sent to prison. Octavius stood trial in December 2016 and claimed that he knew nothing about the murder plan, only about the kidnapping. However, the jury didn't believe his claims and found him guilty, sentencing him to 75 years in prison. Both Jonathan and Jose pleaded guilty to the kidnapping and murder charges and were each sentenced to 50 years in prison. Samantha's trial took place in September 2017. During the trial, the prosecution argued that Samantha, while not directly involved in the murder, was the instigator. She had planned the murder with the 3 men for a whole day, left the front door open, and had even lent her car to facilitate the kidnapping. Finally, the verdict was announced. Samantha Wohlford was found guilty of murder and kidnapping and was sentenced to 99 years and 50 years, respectively. We're heading to Nottingham, a city in the East Midlands region of England, with a population of around 300,000 people. On April 25, 2011, a distress call was made to the emergency hotline 9999. There was a house fire on Georgia Drive, and witnesses saw 2 children manage to escape from the burning house. Emergency services quickly arrived to control the fire. A neighbor mentioned that the children's mother might still be inside. The police sealed off the area as more details about the fire started to emerge. It was later discovered that the fire originated in the bedroom, causing significant smoke damage. While the children made it out safely, their mother unfortunately suffered severe burns. Investigators spoke to the older sibling, a 14-year-old boy, to gather additional information. According to him, he woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom when an intruder wearing a mask threw a hammer at him. The intruder then proceeded to their mother's bedroom and started the fire. The boy managed to rescue his younger brother and their dog, but he couldn't reach his mother due to the flames. With no other option, they had to leave the house. Tragically, the teams later discovered the badly burnt body of the boy's mother, Jacqueline Angela Bartlam. She was identified through dental records and was a 47-year-old mother of 2, born in 1964. Angela Bartlam and her children had a comfortable life in a middle-class neighborhood. The family was deeply affected by Angela's divorce from Adrian in 2008. After the divorce, Angela and her children moved to a different area of Nottingham, where she eventually met Simon Mattis. They had a strong connection, and Simon was enchanted by Angela's nurturing nature. Just 2 days after the devastating house fire that claimed Angela Bartlam's life, the police announced the arrest of a suspect. However, the details of the case were not released until authorized by the court. Speculation arose, with many people suspecting Simon as the murderer. Surprisingly, it turned out that the killer was not Simon, but Angela's 14-year-old son, Daniel Bartlam. Daniel, born in 1996, had developed an interest in fictional violence and brutality. He lived a secluded life and had been obsessed with violent video games since his parents' divorce. This disturbing obsession started when he was a child. He started living with his mother, Angela, who loved him and worked hard to support his personal life. However, due to financial strain from the divorce, Daniel had to leave his private school and attend a public school, which made him feel targeted by bullies and excluded. Around the same time, Angela met Simon, and they decided to live together and buy a new house. However, Daniel couldn't adapt to this new situation. He disagreed with their choice of a new home, which further strained his relationship with the couple. Daniel became increasingly withdrawn and isolated, refusing to help with household chores or communicate with Simon. He became angry, feeling neglected, and distanced himself even further from his family. With Angela now in a new relationship, uncontrollable events unfolded in Daniel's life, fueling his anger. He spent most of his time locked in his bedroom, which worried Simon, who felt Daniel was too young to be exposed to adult content. On the other hand, Angela attempted to regain control through discipline, often resorting to violence. During one argument, Daniel erupted in rage towards Angela, getting in her face until Simon intervened. Daniel then proceeded to violently kick and throw objects against the wall, hurling insults and screaming at his mother. Shortly after this incident, Daniel disappeared from home, prompting Angela to contact the police and initiate a widespread search. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, Daniel was found in the old family home he lived in before the divorce. This led Angela to decide to move out of their current home to a smaller, more affordable house. Simon helped Daniel clean his bedroom and discovered boxes filled with plastic toys and piles of urine and feces that had accumulated over time. When he looked under the bed, he was shocked to find a collection of Angela's missing underwear. Concerned, they reported this discovery to a psychologist, who suggested that it was attention-seeking behavior rather than something sexual in nature. These events took place about a year and a half before Angela's murder. Daniel's obsession with violence continued to escalate. 6 weeks before the murder, he was referred to a child and adolescent psychiatry service for a mental health assessment, which concluded that he did not have psychological issues and did not pose a danger to himself or others. On April 25, 2011, the day of the murder, everything seemed normal in the Bartlam family home. Angela was texting her friend Simon in her room, while Daniel planned to spend time with his grandparents. After watching one of the Saw movies the previous night, he was ready to carry out his disturbing plan. Daniel went into the garden to retrieve a canister of gasoline and a hammer. He then entered his mother's room, threw her to the ground, and relentlessly attacked her with the hammer, striking her skull and face. After wrapping her body in newspaper, he set it on fire using the gasoline. He then woke up his younger brother and told him that the house was on fire before they both ran outside. When the police arrived, Daniel lied to his neighbors, claiming that a masked burglar had entered through his mother's bedroom window. The burnt house was searched, and 2 hammers were found at the scene. One of them was identified as the murder weapon, while the other was planted by Daniel himself to confuse the investigators. However, his attempts to conceal his crime proved futile. Further investigation revealed that a fictional version of the murder story, with Daniel as the main character, had recently been deleted from his computer. The story included scenes of murder, rape, and assault, depicting Daniel as a criminal mastermind who kills his mother with a hammer and sets her body on fire. The trial began on January 23, 2012, and the prosecution argued that Daniel had intentionally killed his mother. Although Daniel pleaded not guilty, extensive psychological evaluations found no evidence of any mental disorders. Daniel claimed that he had been verbally and physically abused by his mother and committed the murder out of anger. However, Judge Julian Flo deemed their arguments to be normal family disputes and did not believe that Daniel had been abused by his mother. On April 2, 2012, the jury unanimously found Daniel guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 14 years, subject to assessment to determine if he still poses a danger. Before we conclude this video, please be aware that the video on the left may be disturbing. It is recommended for adult viewing only. On the right, you'll find a playlist of videos that have been highly appreciated by our viewers.